Spirit spoke to him. He froze. He was like catatonic, and the Holy Spirit gave him a download about me. And then he said to me, I said, "What's going on?" He said, "The Holy Spirit just talked to me and had a conversation about you to me." And he said, and I said, "Well, what did he say?" He said, "You are to take care of him and keep him out of trouble and take care of him and take him all over the island." So I said, "Okay, that sounds cool to me." But I have 2 suitcases of Bibles. So we got in his car and we drove back to the Itaba Hotel. And when I got into the hotel, the 2 Gestapo guys that were assigned to Don, they were way down the other hallway, but they saw me. And the rule is if you can get whatever's contraband, like Bible, into your car and you're a pastor, they can't touch them. So Pastor Hunter knew that, so I went zipping down there. He took 1 suitcase, I took the other suitcase.
93 pounds?
93 pounds of suitcase. And those guys are literally running. We opened the door, threw the suitcases, like a movie, threw the suitcases in the back, slammed the door, and here comes the Gestapo boys. I jump in the seat on the passenger side, he jumps in the driver's side, and he drives away.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. We got him in. Yeah, that was pretty amazing. And then they took me all over the country. I was gone the whole week. I never went back to the hotel till the night before I was leaving. Don never saw me again.
Was he wondering where you were? He's
I don't know whether he was. He just knew I was on a mission.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. So then I spoke at conferences, at pastors' conferences, and taught on healing. And there was a guy that had something wrong with his knees. Both his legs were pretty bad, and his pain was excruciating. And I was teaching that the Lord will use anybody that has an open heart to the things of God. And so there's a little 5-year-old, I think it was 5 years old, maybe 6, sitting in the front with his mom and dad. And I told him to come up here. So I said, "See, God can use anybody to do anything if you're obedient to what he ever says." I said to the boy, through my interpreter, "Put your hands on his knees." So he put his hands on his knees, and I told him what to pray, and he prayed it. God instantly healed that guy. And everybody in the audience went. They all kind of like mouths dropped open, and they were like, "Why? He's only 6 years old. What?" That wasn't in their theology. Their paradigm was just broken. And so, I told them, I said, "Look, remember, God, if you're obedient to God and you belong to him and you do what he says, that's all it takes. You don't have to be a pastor and have credentials and do all this stuff. Just be obedient to
I
God."
wonder where that little boy is now.
I don't know.
Would that be interesting?
But I led hundreds to Jesus, hundreds.
In Cuba?
Yeah, and hundreds in the baptism of the Holy Spirit. Blind eyes, see. Shriveled arm and shriveled legs grew. It was like, what? It was amazing. So I'll tell you the shriveled arm and shriveled legs. So they had me out in the countryside. We were out somewhere. We were way out there. And the roads all have big potholes in them. They drive 1940s and 50 cars. They're still to this day driving those same cars. They don't have updated cars. They're still 40s and 50s. It's unbelievable. They just make repairs. They just keep repairing it. And so we pull into this parking lot and had a big crater. I mean, somebody looked like they took a backhoe and made a big hole in the middle of the parking lot when you pulled in. And so he slowed down to go through this crater like this, and then this guy had a suit on and a tie on, and he had a lady on his right arm, and she had a shriveled right arm and a shriveled left leg. They were both up like this, and she had her arm through his, and he was her cane. As she walked, she went, and it broke my heart. And my empathy went off the charts. I empathized really. It was like, oh. And there were 5 high-rise buildings, 5 of them. And we went to this one on the right, went up to the 12th floor, 8th floor, something like that, and we were going to talk with the pastor. And then we were going to go and walk to the church, which the church was up this hill, a little thatched hut church. It wasn't very big, it was pretty small. And so we got done with our briefing and stuff like that, and now we come down, and I walked. my interpreter is Louis Betancourt. Louis was a nuclear engineer, trained in Russia, and he speaks fluent Spanish, Russian, and English.
Wow.
Smart man.
Yeah.
Smart man. And then when he became a spirit-filled Christian, the Communist Party kicked him out and said, let your God take care of you. And God did. He would say to God,
God is a man.
he would say, God, well, I'm going to bed now, and we don't have anything to eat for tomorrow for my family and my 2 children. Nothing. And he'd go to bed, go to sleep. Next morning he'd wake up and there's a bag of groceries at his front door. He said, Warren, he said, I can't tell you how many times that God did that. But he did it a lot. And he was building my faith to trust him, not the Communist Party. I said, that's cool. Anyway, we're walking up this hill, all of a sudden Louis freezes, stops dead in his tracks, like he became a statue. His eyes didn't blink, he was frozen, and he had his eyes kind of up, maybe 12 degrees up. And he was not budging, he was not moving. I put my hand like this, and he was not blinking, but he was looking at something. And so I got behind him. I'm trying to see what he.
What do you see?
What does he see? So I'm kind of going like this, and I'm behind him. I said, Louis, what are you looking at? And he went like this. And then I got behind his arm, and I followed my eyes to he was looking at something, but I never saw what it was. And finally, he came out of his trance, and he said, didn't you see what I saw? I said, what'd you see? He said, that's the church we're going to right there, and there's a big 40-foot angel in front of that. And then he described what it had on. He's, the armor that he has on, and he described everything. And I'm going, he said, you didn't see that? I said, no. He goes, it's amazing. So we went into the church, and then we came to the church that this side of the building had shutters that opened to those 5 high-rises. So we opened the shutters and we proclaimed the word of the Lord that let them go. They belong to Jesus. Let them go. And we just prayed that, prophesied that. And then we went and people filled the church up, and they announced who I was, and I came to preach. And so there was some little distractions because the floor was dirt, and half of it was broken concrete slabs. And they were sitting on little wooden benches. I mean, the uncomfortable stuff. On the front row is a woman with a baby and maybe a 4-year-old, at the max 4.5-year-old son. And so the mother decides she's going to breastfeed the baby, and out comes the boob, and on goes the baby. The boy decides that he's going to take a pee, so he puts his pants down and starts peeing on the floor, and it's running towards me.
Wait, what did you do that
And I'm like,
for? What did you do that for?
well, he just did it. And
He had to go pee.
yeah, so I said, this is a distraction. That's all this is a distraction.
Yeah.
So Louis agreed. He's my interpreter. So I preached, and whatever I preached, and at the end I called anybody that wants to get me to pray for them to be healed to come forward. So I was ministering to somebody over here, and that lady with the shriveled arm and shriveled leg came up, and I didn't even know she came into church. I never saw her come in. I didn't see where she was sitting. And she pulled, and I turned around, there she was. And so when I turned and saw her and I locked eyes with her, Holy Spirit came all over me. When I got filled with the Holy Spirit, he came down on top of my head, came to my heart, went out here, and all my hair stood up. When he went all the way to my fingers, came back this way, the hairs all stood up, came back to the middle, went this way, all my hair stood up, came back to the middle, all my hair stood up, went down all the way down my legs, my hairs on my legs stood up, and this is what was happening. Except it was like this. It was going fast. The RPMs were really quick. So I turned to Louis, I said, I held my arm up because my hairs went, and then I went, and I said, are you feeling this? He said, brother, this is electric. He said, what is this? I said, I think I know. And he said, what? I said, watch. So my hair stood up, and then it started rolling this way. And when the Holy Spirit got right to here, I reached out and touched that woman. Pow! Literally, pow. Something exploded out of me that I can't even know what it was. But when I touched that woman, her arm grew out and her leg grew out. Just like that. And the whole church watched it. And as soon as that happened, they all hit the floor.
I think I
Their
would.
whole face, all their face was in the dirt.
I think I would.
Literally. And then she just lifted both her hands up like this and ran around the church, praising God. And everybody that was on the floor was repenting. I repent. And so I said to Lewis, I said, what's this guy? What's he repenting of? Oh, he's repented of going back to cigarette smoking, and he has some idols that he didn't get rid of. I said, ask him where he lives. So he asked him where he lives. He just lives like 50 feet, 75 feet, 100 feet to the next little house. So I said, tell him, go back to his house, and we'll walk over there, and we'll take care and get his idols. What were his idols? He had a picture of a Catholic stuff, and he had a red string and a red heart with threads around it. It was called the Immaculate Heart of whatever. And then he had cigarettes because he was not supposed to be. He said he gave it up, but he didn't. So I said, okay, dig a hole right here. So we dug a hole in the sand and threw it in there. I said, okay, you had cigarettes. Do you have any lighter fluid? He goes, yes. I said, go back home and get it. So he went back home and he brings his can of lighter fluid, cigarette lighter fluid. So I said, soak it, squirt it, soak it down. Just squirt everything that's in there. I said, okay. So I said, give me a match. And I light it. And it burns and it burns and it burns, except the items we put in there did not burn. The picture didn't burn. The little threaded heart didn't burn. Even though the flames were coming up, they weren't burning. So I said, they have the demonic forces on this. Yeah, the demonic forces were hooked onto those things.
Does that could prevent them from burning?
Yes. So I said, okay, to the guy, I said, cover it up with the dirt. Put your feet on it and stand on it and speak to it. And I told him what he needed to say. I said, don't come back here and dig that up ever again. Do you understand? Yes, I understand. I'm not going to, because he saw with his own eyes that something supernatural happened that should have never happened. So that's just a taste of everything that went on. The blind eye guy, the guy was blind. And when I read through and told his eyes to open up, he snapped his head up like this because he was over a light. He snapped his head up and I said, what do you see? And he went, lose light. Pointed right to he didn't know he was under a light, but he could see it. It was like, whoa, cool.